So if I said to you, this is observation number 1, okay? I'm going to read out some draft picks. 4, 12, 19, and 31. What?
Richmond?
No, don't.
Oh.
What player in the competition is worth those 4 picks? 4, 12, 19. So if I said to you, can I have Nick Dacos to Collingwood for 4, 12, 19, and 31? Who says no?
Collingwood would say no.
Do they?
Yeah.
If I said that for Sam de Koning, 4, 12, 19, and 31, who says no?
I think most people would say no.
To those 4 picks for
I
Sam
wouldn't
de
be giving
Koning.
up. I wouldn't give up 4
You wouldn't
picks.
give up 4 picks.
No.
A lot of clubs do.
not for
So
Kane.
that's more than Luke Jackson, clearly.
I think we're getting a lot of lessons on, and we have had over the years, of clubs giving up way too many draft picks, like West Coast did for Kelly, and it comes back to bite you.
Okay, well, on the open market, I think you're going to get a pretty good player for 4, 12, 19, and 31. History would suggest exactly that. I mean, 2 first-round draft pick gets you an A-grade midfielder. So my point is that this deal gets worse and worse by the week. It really does, and you've got to factor in the 14 years between them and them not helping Richmond. So it's a watch. Clearly, Richmond are 4th last at the moment, and that pick is held by the Giants. Now, their ladder position might improve, which makes the deal look a little bit better.
They got 2 players for that, didn't they?
Yeah, they got 2, Hopper and Taranto.
But that's different. You said which
Yeah,
player.
well, which player or players would you package up in that deal?
Okay.
I think it's a horrific deal, is what I'm saying. Now, you 3 might disagree. I think it's about as bad a trade as we've seen in a long time on current evidence.
But, mate, they've been 5 games into one club.
On current evidence.
One club, mate.
They got
You've got to let them find their
Hodge,
groove.
They got 7 years left. They got 7
You're
years
right.
left.
So that means they've got them for the future. They're going to try and fit himself into the game, into the team.
Taranto
into the style
currently
now.
can't kick a drop punt.
I would argue they're
There's
not the
been
problem.
plenty of players that haven't been able to kick Kane that have had a long career.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to get ahead of the
So
curve
summing
here.
up, you're saying you don't like the deal.
I'm saying it's a horrific
You had me
deal.
confused.
I
Jack.
reckon you've jumped early on this one.
Okay, well, we'll come back.
For one person, I wouldn't give up those picks, but for 2, I probably would. If
So
they're going to be
you
2
would
players,
do that deal again right now.
if you
7
could get-
years,
if
big
you
money.
had the belief that these guys are going to take your midfield and charge on for the next 7 years and bring you back up to
Do
premiership.
you have
because
that
obviously-
belief, Hodgie?
Well, clearly they do.
No, do you? It's
I
not-
haven't
it's not
watched
up-
those 2 close enough. I realise that Taranto started off the season really well. Yes, his kicking's let him down. Hopper's been in and out a little bit. It hasn't been as good. But, mate, they're 5 games in. I remember when, as I said, a lot of it you bring back to your own experiences. We got Jager and Tommy Mitchell in. We missed finals the next year. They brought them back up to top 4 in 2018. So I wouldn't be jumping 5 games into a 7-year contract.
No, I just call it as I see it. I'm observing. That's my
Bit premature,
No,
but
I don't think it
anyway.
is. It's my observation from round 5, and that's one of them. As we move on to observation number 2, I reckon if you're looking at Carlton, Sammy, and the way that they've tried to rebuild this list, it would have been a bit concerning playing Adelaide on Thursday night and seeing the result. Adelaide's rebuild feels to me like it's leapfrogged Carlton's by about 3 years.
I think the problem with Carlton is when they don't win contest and clearance, which is clearly the ace in their deck, they look vulnerable. They look slow. They look second to the ball. They look horrible when they don't win clearance. You'd like to think that's an anomaly. At least it has been with this group. But that was always a danger game for the Blues. Coming in, Adelaide riding high. They got stitched up there 12 months ago as well.
I just think holistically,
No, I wouldn't-
is the rebuild on track to where they should be tracking with the core group of experience that they've now got?
I think so. In the midfield specifically, I think so. I mean, a bad game, yes, but I don't think that derails your whole plan.
My only concern with Carlton is, and it's only short term, but they aren't playing anywhere near as well as I saw them playing at their best last year. They haven't played their best footy yet. And last year, when Hewitt was at his best and Cripps was at his best, they were winning the ball. I mean, the criticism was they couldn't get goals from turnovers. Well, now they're getting goals from turnovers, but they're not getting it from their strength, which is their clearance.
Their defensive structure's a lot more sound as well. Admittedly, Adelaide sliced them apart on Thursday, but they were as hot as any side we've seen this year. It's with the ball that I have a worry for Carlton. Their offensive transition, it's either contest a mark or bust, or a crumb, or it's bust at the moment. I don't see that electrifying ball flow that we've seen from St Kilda, from Collingwood and all the good teams.
Hodgie, do they look a little bit pedestrian through the midfield? All the rage was those bigger body midfields, which they had, and they dominated the game last year, but are they now a bit one pace through there?
I just feel that the guys that you spoke about, the Hewitts, Cripps, they haven't had the impact that they had. And look, it's a big difference. As Sammy said, if you win the ball and get it played in your half, you can set up and you don't look as slow. When you're losing contested possession and you have to spread defensively and then have the energy to transition the ball, that's where they're falling short. The big balls through the midfield, they brought in Walsh, who's obviously elite with his endurance, but the other guys aren't. Their whole game style for them last year was about winning that contested possession, put it in and then squeeze them. And when you've got big blokes who've got energy in and around the contest, set up, having a breather, they look a totally different team. Where Adelaide, one thing you can't pork with Adelaide is their effort in and around the contest. They will, whether they win or lose the contest, they're going to be working up and back, and that's what they were able to do. They were able to slice them, win the contested ball, and then push hard forward, and that's what caught Carlton out. So if I was Carlton, I'd be looking to try, and if they can't win the contested possession and move it forward, what can the mix be? So there is a bit of transition. It is a little bit of leg speed, because once they lose that, they do look second rate.
Observation number 3. If you were to do your list of the AFL's top 50 players right now, what bracket would Nick Blakey sit? Gerard, what bracket of a top 50 player?
Top 20.
Hodgie?
Top 20? Oh, he was really good. He was really good.
Hodgie,
on
what bracket?
Friday night. I'd be 40s.
Sammy?
Yeah, 40s.
Yeah, I'm in the 30s now. So I reckon that's how much of a weapon he could be. So his second quarter, and I thought it was a different game from him because he actually had to play on someone because their defence was decimated, as did Callum Mills, who was terrific. He had 15 and 3 intercept marks in the second quarter alone. He ended up with 30 now. How many of those from kickouts? I haven't checked, but he went at 89% by foot. 8 coaches' votes as well, and I think he's coming with a rocket to be one of the big weapons in the game.
I reckon one of the secrets to him is playing on somebody, because people are playing on him, and they have done 3 times out of 5 this year. And he still cuts sides up. His damage off halfback is the equivalent to the top bracket of the halfbacks. He doesn't get the credit, some of them do, but on the weekend he did, because
Agree with that.
he stood out.
And I think that's the thing. He normally plays second fiddle. So you've got both McCartans down there. You've got Rampy. All of a sudden, I liked how smart he was with his game as well. He wasn't too aggressive early on.
Yep.
He had to play as a defender. And then as soon as the game sort of relaxed a little bit, he was able to flow. And that left foot that he's got, that cuts teams open. How he had the ball in the back half, back 50, and was able to pierce those left kicks through the back end, just open the field. But
it's all about damage, Hodgie, as you well know, not just the numbers, but the damage. And his damage off that half back line is superb.
Maximum damage.
And if he gets more roles, more responsibilities, you're only going to see him grow as a player.
It's a bit like Jordan Dawson. I mean, Jordan Dawson's game was superb because he was actually playing on Paddy Cripps. And he ran off Paddy Cripps.
I might as well throw out my apologies now. That was my apology, Kane. Last week I thought Gather Round was last week when you spoke about Adelaide and Port Adelaide every second conversation. Oh, I thought you went a little bit early with Jordan, but I have to apologise, mate. He was outstanding. He's had a ripping start to be captain in his second year and to play the football he has. I may have to send an apology your way.
Thanks, Hodgie, but I think our audience prefers it when we punch on. So let's move on to number 4.
There'll be plenty of that tonight.
Now, you are, and Sammy also, my resident salary cap experts. So I just want your input in this. I think you were spot on with Noble when we spoke about what he may be paid last year. I want to get your thoughts on, so Callum Wilkie, right, off the rookie list, signed a deal at the end of 2021.
Not enough is the answer.
So Hodgie, what range do you think Callum Wilkie is paid in now?
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, if he signed at the end of 2021, he'd be 300 maybe?
Yeah,
300 to 400?
I thought there might have been a 4 in front of it.
He was very clear. Was he All-Australian squad last year?
Yes, but he signed the deal before that.
Oh, did he?
Incentives.
If he signed in 2021.
All right. So we get
high threes.
We get the point. Callum Wilkie is in for a massive payday, and he deserves every cent. So
100%.
He never plays a bad game. It's amazing. He never plays a bad game. He rarely gets beaten in a contest. He does it all. You know, you get your defenders that are hard to get a kick on, but he's also that, but offensively amazing. And he's a South Australian as well. And so, if Port Adelaide and Adelaide need a player, it's a key defender. I'm not saying he leaves, but I'm saying St Kilda or whoever gets him will be forced to pay a big check, and he deserves it.
And that's where you feel for him, because so many players sign a real big contract. They have a real good year when they're out of contract on their last one, and they get a massive pay, and then they drop down. You feel for the blokes who do that, play consistent football for 3 years, but they sign a long-term deal. at the start before they start playing and having the impact that he has. So I hope it continues because whatever he gets paid next, he deserves it. He's been excellent.
Observation number 5 is Ruckman went out of fashion for a while there, but I reckon each team, there's 44 odd spots on a list. You've got to start the season with at least 3 B to B plus Ruckman on your list. When that's been the case this year, I see Owens and Frampton going up for the ruck when the game is on the line at the Adelaide Oval in the last 2 minutes. Owens is in the ruck, and he did it well, and Frampton was great as well, but Frampton, they need down back. McStay's not there. I don't know what they're going to do. Collingwood, so Collingwood have got 2, probably B plus to A.
Well, they're going to have to play Frampton in the ruck, full stop.
But then if they come up against a team that has a taller forward line than what St Kilda had, that's going to be an issue for them, and McStay can't ruck there either. So,
Kane, are there 54 A plus rucks out there?
B plus, I said.
B plus ruck, sorry, apologies.
B plus ruckman. Probably not.
54?
Probably not. But I think clubs have gone away from prioritising the position. With 5 on the bench now, and I've got a couple of examples, like what Essendon are doing with Draper and Phillips. I mean, Phillips, you would think, is a C plus to B ruckman at the start of the year.
I'm staggered that he hasn't been a club's number 1 ruckman for a long time.
And I see Lysett subbed out for Dixon. Porter got 1 B to B plus ruckman on their list, and Charlie Dixon has to go from the forward line at 33 years of age when the game is on the line to ruck. He don't want to ruck. He's brilliant in there. He doesn't want to be there. So I just think teams have got to start prioritising the position again, and with 5 on the bench, you are able to do that. Going to read some names out that Fremantle have either tried to attract or have recruited to be the next Matthew Pavlich. And there's a lot of them. Cale Hooker, Mitch Clark, Travis Cloak, Cam McCarthy, Hogan, Kirsten, Corbett's on the list now. Harry Taylor they had a crack at. They wanted to play him forward. They had Lob, and they're going to try to play Fife as a forward.
Jared Waite was another one.
Jay
Schultz was another one.
They're everywhere. Well, finally, Fremantle, I think, have the replacement for Matthew Pavlich, and his name is Jimes. I loved his game on the weekend. 5 touches and a goal in the last quarter. Ended up with 3 goals, 8 marks. He's not a big key forward, and I don't think he'll ever be that, but he's in the mould of a Todd Marshall type who can be a very good number 2 key forward.
There's a kid that was in their own backyard called Van Rooyen.
Yes.
Who they had a draft pick, 8 picks beforehand. They went with Amos, and then they went with Erasmus.
Oh, yeah, but...
And then they had I mean, we've just gone through a list.
Yeah,
you can scoff at this, but there's 2 kids in the backyard who were just coming down the road to play
recently.
to play key forward.
How did they get Matthew Pavlich, though? Because another club completely buggered it up.
Yeah, that's true.
This is one of the biggest
they got him through the draft.
recruiting mistakes Adelaide and Port Adelaide have ever made, that one. And finally, and this might be an in for you, Sammy, Ken Hinkley has had a magnificent fortnight. I've just got to say. So he's had the toughest draw in the competition. There is absolutely, unquestionably the toughest first 5 games of the year, and I'll read them out. Brisbane played in a prelim last year. Collingwood played in a prelim last year. Adelaide, the hottest team in the competition. Sydney played in the grand final last year, and the Western Bulldogs played finals last year. And they're 3-2 after starting 0-5. A couple of moves that he has made, including Darcy Byrne-Jones sub last week, bringing him on. That's given him a rocket. Started him forward. He had 7 career goals leading into that game. Kicked 2 in the first half in a low-scoring game. Sub Lysett out and put Dixon in. That was a significant move. Willem drew to Bontempelli after halftime, and I did love his support after the game and post-game for Jason Horne-Francis.
Good. So are you going to give him an extended contract?
Not yet. No.
When?
I'm not saying that. No, I think the clubs, as I've said multiple times, the club has handled this magnificently and maturely, and they said, come and ask us in August. Now, we'll have a pretty good indication of whether he stays in August. And if he doesn't, I'm telling you, there'll be 4 other clubs that will sign him in a heartbeat.
Jason Horne-Francis was massive in the last quarter, we know that, and it was probably overshadowed in the end, wasn't it, by the treatment of him, by the crowd, and then the passionate defence, and with a fair flavour of anger in it too from the coach, Ken Hinkley. It's led to all sorts of who did what and who's to blame, and how has it got to a stage where we've got neutral fan bases booing a 19-year-old? Well, Kane, you've been vocal in this space all the way through, and your old running mate on Friday mornings, David King, said this on Fox Footy's First Crack last night.
You got to cut to the chase. Kane Cornes put this on the radar with the rubbish about ice baths, that he was sacked from North Melbourne because of not taking an ice bath. And that flared the nostrils of the North Melbourne fans. Yep. And they've been going backwards and forwards at each other for 6 months. And unfortunately, Jason Horne-Francis has been the sole victim in all of this.
So that was David King last night, Kane. Now, this would be the time to acknowledge you haven't started the fire, but you've played some sort of a role in the narrative around Jason Horne-Francis and perhaps the heavy scrutiny thrust upon him.
How have I done that?
By the constant hashtagging of ice bars.
So a hashtag on Twitter has caused supporters from another team that he's never played for to boo him at the MCG.
Think of it like a fire, all right? So you didn't gather the firewood. You didn't even start the fire. You didn't even start the fire.
I asked you how
I'm explaining it.
Okay.
So you didn't gather the firewood, you didn't get the jiffies out, and you didn't light the fire, right? That was done by the fact that he's a number one draft pick requesting a trade from. That's highly unusual. So that's lit the fire. And then everything's raged on from there. But the fact that you've been throwing the logs on with that, and you've been baiting people with the hashtag ice bar.
So that's the only example you've given me.
By alluding to the fact that he's traded for a single ice bar.
A couple of times about a hashtag. Hodgie, you go.
After listening to Kingy, I thought I might call up a few North Melbourne supporters that I knew that were over there and a few former, maybe North Melbourne players, just to find out what their thoughts are, and you can continue support. And it's like, to your credit, you've backed him. You've backed him all the way since the time he wanted the trade. One of the questions that they threw up is, do you think that your continued support of Jason Horne-Francis has helped him with his transition to Port Adelaide?
Well, I haven't heard one.
And don't get defensive. Just asking.
No, I'm answering the question. I haven't heard one negative thing about Jason Horne-Francis. The Travis Boak may message me 3 times like a month, and say this kid's a ripper. Like, he's unbelievable. They love him. They think he's a family man. His form has been really impressive, like to the point where he surprised me. So I don't know. I think he's going pretty well.
Can we just call it as it is?
If I'm being criticised for supporting a player, I'm not going to shy away from that.
But it's twofold, because you say North Melbourne didn't support him, right? You say North Melbourne didn't put an arm around him like Port Adelaide did.
Do you disagree with that?
Yeah, somewhat I do.
You disagree with North Melbourne didn't support him like
he
they
didn't
should
have a great relationship with many teammates there. He openly argued with them, he berated them, and he irritated them by not upholding professional standards they were all expected to.
That was enough.
So it's a two-way street. North were a mess. There's no denying that at the time, and they would probably say they would have done things differently as well. But that's certainly the case for Jason, who only a quarter of a season on would probably have a better concept of things, the way things work inside a club that he didn't have then, and you learn. You learn on the go, don't you?
North Melbourne have supported Taran Thomas or Jason Horne-Francis more?
They didn't want to lose Jason Horne-Francis. They didn't want to lose him. In the end, they
didn't
sanctioned
have to.
Because he put in a trade request and they sanctioned that trade request.
I feel like we're going over very old ground. My view is on, and it won't change, North Melbourne completely botched their most talented player since Wayne Carey. They didn't support him enough. Of course, there was things that Jason would do
Noble
differently.
defended him many
He's
times.
18 years of age. They could have kept him. They didn't. It's going to come back to haunt them. He would be absolutely loving the fact that he got out of the joint, because imagine playing in the North Melbourne side that are witches' hats at the moment. And if I'm guilty of anything...
How does it haunt them? They've got Harry Sheasel in the door. Wardlaw's going to be a star.
Come back to me in 4 years. When
it might turn out to be just a great deal for both clubs.
I think that's unlikely. That would be my view. If I'm guilty of anything, I'm not going to apologise for supporting a player. And I've spoken to the club multiple times, and I find it hilarious with David King's comments, because the message that keeps coming back is, make sure Kingy knows Ken Hinkley's comments were largely directed at him. So I'm just telling you that, just because
Why?
Because of the criticism that Jason Horne-Francis has been receiving from people like Kingy and others in the media, and Hutchie's been critical on Footy Classified and many others. If I'm guilty of anything, I've been the only one that's been there supporting him right from the start, and I'm not going to apologise for that.
The fact that with all the stuff that you're saying, you're supporting him, we've said that, but the fact that you continue to have a go at other clubs. So when you went back at North Melbourne, you said about the Taran Thomas, you brought that back to, he was supposed to be
Is that not fair, though, Hodgie?
Kane,
they haven't supported him. He's ostracised from the club. He's been banished from the club twice. So you're saying they've overly supported
only because that became public. We didn't know about that until that became public.
And the counselling and the rehabilitation measures, they've stood him down from separate to everything else, because he's not
until
upholding.
It became public, Sam.
No, that's separate. That's separate to that.
He was suspended from driving and found guilty of driving twice, and they supported him. They didn't stand him down until it became public in the Herald Sun.
Final word with you, Hodgie.
I've let it. I think we've gone too far. We've spoken about it for 5 minutes. My thing was going to be the fact that Kane, is he supports North Melbourne. Supports Port Adelaide. I was going to touch on the Thomas being his mentor, and then you put that back to North Melbourne. So you're giving a little bit of a tickle back to the North Melbourne supporters there. You spoke about the
But that
ice
wasn't
baths,
right.
which is you spoke about the ice baths which you brought up wasn't a big deal, but the fact of the players trying to mentor this young fella, one small thing, and one of the things that the players spoke back to me was Kane Cornes, from what we hear is the most professional person when he played football, would not have missed anything, and that's why he was able to achieve what he did. Your older brother's probably bigger and stronger, but your work ethic and determination got you through to what you did. They said, would Kane have missed out on an ice bath? So he knows the small little things of a leader to help a younger person be the best he possibly can is to do all those little small things, because they need to trust him when he's away from the club to do the right things.
I understand all of that.
And then the next one that was raised on them was going to be the long-term deals. You hate long-term deals.
Yeah.
They said he hates 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
The only one they've ever heard you say was a good long-term deal was Jason.
Yeah, no, I didn't say I loved it. I said when I was asked that, and once again, you can read the clip on social media as it's reported. Matthew Lloyd on Trade Radio asked me, and I said, I can't stand long-term deals, but I can understand why Port have done this. And I've reasoned that by saying one of the years was base payment. So one of the years is the second year you're on a base payment. The other reason that I haven't seen too many 19-year-olds sign for 6 years. So he's going to be 25 when the deal expires. It's a little bit different than signing a 27-year-old to a 7-year deal. But all in all, I do. I don't like long-term deals. But this one, I could understand why Port Adelaide did it. And with the ice bath, I get that, and that is a professional thing. But it's not enough to drop a player who's your most talented player since Wayne Carey 4 and used as one of the reasons why you traded him out.